Welcome back. South African comedian Stuart Taylor is set to bring his brand new stand-up show, Odd Man Out, to the Baxter Theatre from the 3rd to the 8th of March. Now, this show promises a fresh, hilarious take on life's uniqueness and the universal feeling of being an outsider in your own world. He dives deeper into the awkwardness of growing older while trying to stay relevant in a world full of younger, faster and fitter people. Well, without giving away too much, Stuart Taylor joins us now virtually to share more. Stuart, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Morning, thanks for having me.
Good, man. I mean, you're now back with your new show, Odd Man Out. Speak to us about the show and what can be expected.
Well, I find that most of the comedy I've written over the last 20-odd years has often been about from an outsider's perspective. You know what I mean? I've never really been exactly cool enough to hang with the cool kids or completely weird enough to hang with the weird kids. So I'm always kind of out there in the middle somewhere. But I realize that that's where a lot of people find themselves. You know, I think everyone is in a situation where you kind of are the odd man out. Yeah. And I've always exploited that for comedy purposes. So, for example, I wrote a show called Learn a Husband because I was like, yo, all other husbands seem like they know what they're doing. I'm out here lost, bro. So this show pretty much is a continuation of that. I'm now a father of teenage boys. Nothing will make you feel quite as uncool as hanging out with teenage boys, my friend. I'm just there. They speak a different language. They've all got a jawline for some reason. They've all got a playlist.
I mean, just considering that this is a one-man show, I mean, touching on subjects, as you just mentioned, such as raising 2 teenage boys and life in your 40s. So the show is based on relatable content, isn't it?
100%. And I think the teenagers who come and watch the show will find it funny from my kids' perspective. And I'm kind of telling it from the parents' perspective. And I think, though, I try to dig down into the feeling you have as being a bit of a fish out of water. And I think the beauty of playing on kind of the emotional aspects of it means that it doesn't matter if you've ever been in that situation yourself. You'll kind of go, I kind of get how he was feeling because I felt that way when I was at school or when I was at a braai or whatever the case may be. So I do try and make the show as relatable as possible. But also, you know, post-COVID, I really drilled down deep into this idea of creating comedy for everyone. You know, you can do political material, you can talk about religion, you can talk about all sorts of things, and often those are very divisive topics. So I've gone, no, man, let me just focus on human nature, on the things that everyone can laugh at. And it doesn't matter whether you're old or young or you know, into fitness or not into fitness or what your religious beliefs are. Like, I just want everyone in a room to sit and laugh for the same things. And you can, if there's some kind of universal human nature behind the stories.
Absolutely, absolutely. So have your boys attended any of your shows? What do they think of your daddy jokes?
Let's just say the dad jokes get the biggest eye roll you've ever seen in your entire life.
Can you imagine?
I sometimes put them online and people love the response that my kids get. So the worse the joke, the bigger the response, the more people love that. So, so that's quite interesting. But in terms of them attending, I was joking with someone that the last time they were at my show, they were sitting in the sound booth, and I said to my wife, "Oh wow, you know," they sat through the whole thing. I hope they enjoyed it. And she said, "No, as they got in, their earphones went on, their phones came out, and that was them." So they didn't exactly pay attention to me.
Right. And Stuart, how's life in your 40s? I mean, this is one of the subjects that you focus on with this upcoming show. Let's talk about, you know, just navigating through your phone and technology as a 40-something-year-old.
My goodness. Listen, thankfully, I think I'm kind of born on a cusp where I have enough interest in technology that I still kind of embrace it. But I'm not completely into it. So it's an interesting thing. I still have to call my kids for tech support from time to time. That's it's a beautiful thing about having teenagers in your house, guys. I'll highly advise it. They are fantastic tech support. They can make your font bigger on your phone, which is also something that happens in your 40s. Your health becomes a different thing. For the first time in your life, you'll feel a draft in your 40s. You'll find yourself saying things like, "Close the window, there's a draft." That's when you know something has changed over here. You know what I mean? Suddenly a knee starts paining and you go, "I think it's going to rain." And
even the content of a conversation with your peers changes, eh?
100%, 100%. Listen, we used to talk about going to clubs at the, what is the hottest club? I
Yeah.
had some friends at my house. They were talking about 24-hour pharmacies. Oh, you must go to that pharmacy. They've got all the good meds.
And all you talk about now is where to get ointment for your joints and for your knees.
Exactly, exactly. We got our WhatsApp group telling you what is on special. Where's arnica oil on special, my friend?
And how much of the content is prepared for rehearsal, and how much is just the spare of the moment jokes?
So, I love the beauty of stand-up is that it really does change with the audience. You've got a script. Absolutely.
Yes.
You know what you're going to talk about. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a story arc. But unlike a theater show where you are doing your lines, it's informed by an audience. So it feels more like a dialogue as opposed to a monologue. So the timing of the material changes, but also I'll chat to the audience. And there's a little surprise bit of magic in the show, because I used to do magic when I was younger. So that uses the audience as well, not in an embarrassing way, but we certainly get them involved in that. So the show does change from day to day depending on who's in the audience. And I love that about stand-up, because it means that every audience gets a rather unique experience. If you've got a elderly couple from Germany in the front row, suddenly there are things in the show that may pander to them. So that's the beauty of coming to a live stand-up show as opposed to watching it on television.
And Stuart, with over 25 years in the comedy space, how would you say your content and material has changed over the years?
Yeah, I think, listen, at the start of our journey, when we were kicking off the comedy thing, there was sort of 20, 30 of us around, Kagiso Lediga and Chris Forrest and David Cow and those guys. We had to pander to an audience very much. Do you know what I mean? You play to an audience and you were like, oh, okay, these are lots of old Caucasians over here. We've got to kind of make fun of ourselves a bit more to be accepted in those spaces, and then watch this thing change over sort of a 10-year period, where suddenly you could kind of speak back to power and say things about maybe this, make fun of apartheid a little bit. And once those audiences leaned into that, it felt like you could really find your identity and your voice and tell your truth. And I think for me now, the pendulum often swung. So I wrote some very, shows that just appealed to everyone, and then found very niche shows where it was like, oh no, I want to speak about race, I want to speak about identity. And then you kind of go, oh, I want to just play in commercial stuff and do things about cats and dogs and husbands and wives. And then after that, you're like, oh, I want to go back and talk about inequality. And I'm very much in a space in my life now where I'm like, no, man, I just want to tell funny jokes, I just want to tell people funny, silly things about being a dad and about family and life that anyone can relate to. And it is a beautiful thing, because I've spent the last 2 or 3 years traveling quite a bit outside of South Africa. And I write material with that in mind. I don't go, oh, what is the German audience going to find funny? What they're going to find funny in London? It's not that. I just go, what are people going to find funny, and take out all of the references from, very South African references or very Cape Town references. Get rid of those and just kind of talk about human nature, as it were.
All right, Stuart, great chatting to you, man. I've got a feeling that this is an absolute must-see show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot. See you at the Baxter.
Awe. Well, that was comedy maestro Stuart Taylor, who will debut his new show, Odd Men Out, at the Baxter Theatre from the 3rd to the 8th of March this year.